Shut up and sit down.
All right.
We're here.
I am fucking ready to go. I am ready to go. I am so fired up. I've been very, hey, look, let's just kick off. Go ahead and kick off. Do your thing.
All right,
Let's go.
cool. So, much anticipated, the election 2020 podcast, the first repeat guest on the QPL podcast, Brooke Daye in the house. Honored. And we said last time we were going to do something around the election because it needed to be done. And and it's great to have you back, mate. So so let's not waste any time. Let's kick this thing right off. Let's get right into it.
Okay, first off, let me just jump out of the picture.
Go.
Come back in. And now you can see my beautiful bald head all illuminated. I shaved for you today.
I shaved for you too, baby.
The two best looking bald guys in podcast world. Okay, so what I've done is I've been really quiet on social media about this. I haven't said anything. As far as my opinions about the election, I will say this, that I've started to think about life past the election, regardless of who wins. And I do have my own ambitions about what it is that I want to do politically. So I've started to prepare that. My cousin reached out to me one day, put a thought in my head, and I'm starting to do that. But I do want to talk about the election and where we are and everything. So coming in hot. I'm ready to go. So
yeah, 100%. And
go ahead. I want to be your responder today. I don't want to talk so freely. I would rather react to your question. So what's the first thing you got on your mind?
All right, cool. So obviously now we are at a place where certain people have declared certain things, and a lot of the world is living already in a post-election world, right? So what I want to look at today is sort of where we are right now, what got us here, any key takeaways from your perspective, because I'm sure you've got some. I've definitely got some.
Yeah, I'm pulling my notes. I really, like I said, I've been storing notes for weeks now. Or a week.
Yeah. And I've been writing some down myself. So if I start to look down, it's just because I'm referring to those.
Yeah, same here.
So some key takeaways, because I think there are some, definitely. And then I want to talk about Trump, his reaction to all of this. I want to talk about what the new, if it does in fact become the new administration, what that looks like.
Okay.
And yeah, it will guide itself. Sure. And then, we'll just freestyle it like we did last time and see where we go.
All right. So before we get to any new, I want to tell everybody out there, pump the fucking brakes. This election is not legally called yet. Let me say that a little bit more forcefully. This election's not over. And you'd be a fool to be out there saying that any party won at this point. There's been enough information that has made people raise eyebrows. There's been enough information that have given lawyers enough standing to challenge. And those challenges are both constitutional, they're appropriate, and they will be carried out. So I think that's the first thing that I want to say in this whole thing, that I've been acutely aware of since, I guess you could say, the election transition integrity project that was put out by the Podesta group.
Okay.
And the Hillary clan with a group called Hawkfish. If you guys are unaware, you could probably check it out. Basically, it was a scenario. It was game planning. Different situations on election night, and they plotted out 5 different scenarios. And in each one, basically the recommendation, if Joe Biden was losing, the messaging to him was don't concede, just don't concede.
They said this publicly.
So yeah. Hillary actually gave him advice publicly.
Correct.
Right? Hillary is on video saying, like, Joe Biden, don't
under any circumstances, don't concede.
Yeah. So I think that keeping the idea of election season in mind. I think we're going to be going forward from now on in election season. I think courts are going to be used more and more. I think things are polarized so much more and more. And hey, let's face it, media companies don't they don't certify presidents.
Correct.
State legislatures do, and the courts eventually do. So that's the first thing that I would say in this situation that we're in. Hey, everyone, I know that a lot of people are happy on the left that the orange man lost. And you know what? If he does lose, happy for you. You know, it's nice to win. Part of democracy is going back and forth. And that's what's cool about democracy, the push-pull, right? We keep each other in check and we make each other better. Hey, certainly Donald Trump made the left better, right? They got on their game and they're at the point right now where, hey, maybe they got on their game enough to win. There's a lot of questions and I want to unpack a lot of them, but the president is well within his right to challenge this, and he will. And I do think that he's going to go all the way. It will go to the Supreme Court. I think that, pushing Coney Barrett through, regardless of whether you think it's a push or not, I think that was pivotal. And I think that when that happened, it gave the president the green light to push this result all the way to the end. So that's the first thing that I'd like to say is that just, hey, let's relax, take a breath, let the legal system play itself out. Don't take it personally. Let it happen. What do you think, Daryl?
Well, I think pumping the brakes is an appropriate statement because what we've seen from the quote-unquote winning side is anything but that. They've slammed on the gas pedal and they are driving as quickly as possible to, January's inauguration. And where we are right now is that, as you said, the mainstream media have called this election. They've effectively tried to certify it. The global leaders have now come out and are congratulating in droves the president and vice president elect. What we haven't had...
Interesting take on that one. I'll follow up on that one in a minute. That's one of my key points. It's an interesting subplot.
Yeah, well, what we haven't had is we haven't had this challenged in court, as you've said. There are certain world leaders that have not codified this, namely Russia, China, Turkey, and some others. And
I find it most interesting that China hasn't said anything yet. I think that's the most interesting one.
Absolutely silent. And again, there's any number of reasons that we can look at and dissect on that. But the Republicans have definitely not codified this. And where we are now, in my opinion, is more of a purgatory status rather than a confirmed status. But if you switch on any of the media outlets, including Fox News, who Rupert Murdoch has swiftly turned his back on Trump and gone the other way, is sort of.
Well, they haven't called it yet. They haven't called it yet as of this podcast.
I thought they did. I thought they were analyzing the other day how the ways in which he lost.
No, Fox. Well, they haven't come out full-throated and said it's over.
Okay.
They haven't done it like MSNBC and CNN as of this podcast.
Yeah, well, MSNBC and CNN
Newsmax
are having, block parties.
They're having a party.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going off right now. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it was done, 30 seconds after the tally in Pennsylvania was done, So we're in a place of indecisiveness, of nothing officially, lawfully concrete at the moment. But if we frame it as the mainstream media are framing it, we have a victor. And
yeah, and like, look, like have one thought in my head, and before this, I was hopping up on some Timcast. I was getting some Tim Pool in my head. I was on some Rogan. I was listening to Bannon's War Room. I was getting sharp. I was like, look, I'm gonna be ready to go tonight. Let me ask you a question.
Oh.
Has the media become the government?
Well, I would go another step.
I've got a lot of smart friends on the left, educated people, and I want to say this to them straight out. Has the media replaced the government for you? If the answer to that is no, then stop celebrating that Joe Biden has won right now. Wait. But if you're out there celebrating, the media has replaced the government for you. right?
That's right.
Because you keep saying everything you just said was media, right? You kept referring to the media. That's the only people that have called it right now. And of course, media is powerful. Media is very strong. It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's very influential and forceful. Hey, you know, politicians are not, I guess you could say, the most morally righteous people out there. They move with the wind, and there's quite a lot of fair weather politicians out there. So they're going to, when they see people call elections, they're going to pipe in, and they're going to offer their kudos
For sure.
You know, yeah,
and
you know, like for example, Netanyahu. If you notice the words that he chose,
yes,
Bibi never said the president-elect, right?
He said Biden.
Yes, he chose his words very carefully, yet the media is spinning that, oh, you know, A2, Bibi, kind of like Julius Caesar, A2 Brutus, you know, or whatever, whoever that fool was
Sure.
that betrayed Caesar, right?
Yeah.
So, look, you're right on the media, but the question I have for my friends and the people that are associated in the stuff that I talk about, has the media replaced the government that much in your life that you're willing to just say, hey, no, guess what?
Stamp
all that
it.
stuff that the Trump campaign, yeah, just stamp it. We're good here. Let's move on. Do you hate Orange Man bad that much that you're willing to fuck up the whole system for?
And I'll go.
You know?
And I'll go one further. Do other governments around the world take the media in America as a legislative power? And if they don't, then why have countries like the UK, Germany, and others come out and congratulated Joe Biden on this victory? Because, as you said, Bibi was kind of careful with his words. Putin has come out and said, I am waiting until the official results are legally decided. Turkey have come out and said nothing. China has been absolutely silent.
That's crazy how China has said nothing.
I want your thoughts on that, because you're in the region. You're more of an expert in that region than me. What do you think?
It's too obvious. If China comes out and congratulates Biden, it's just too much. Oh, China Joe, Beijing Biden, you know? It's just boom, right away.
Pocket.
It's like, oh, you know, China couldn't wait to say congratulations. Oh, and then it gives like the right fodder to say, yeah, you know, the Chinese stole this election, and they'll rile up Trump's base, and they'll get the right out on the street. That's probably the reason why they haven't. And also too, they're smart.
They're pragmatic, for sure.
Yeah, the folks that run Beijing, they're no dummies,
No.
And they're calculated.
Yeah,
and they know it's not over.
Well, that's my question is where are these other governments' heads at when? I mean, as you said, this has not been legislated yet. This has not been confirmed yet by anybody other than some pundits. So how is it that some of the world's most powerful governments have come out and co-signed this decision off?
Yeah.
Are they taking the media as right? Is this, again, like some of the liberals have, some of the Bloc Party folks out there, have they just said, well, we prefer it, therefore if we stamp it, you know, if you build it, it will come. If you make it so, right? It's kind of, it's just putting a stamp on it.
You and I both rail against the media in our own ways pretty strongly, right?
Yeah.
And we're not alone. The media is relatively, they're very unpopular. We're not the only ones out there saying the media sucks. There's a lot of people who are too.
Of course.
Okay. But the media also has its allies. The media also has its power. And as I've said over and over again, this election is no longer about the left versus right. It's about nationalism versus globalism.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the new world order versus the old world order, and how those forces of powerful people are at war with one another over dominion of the kingdom. So if you look at who's actually piped up and said certain things, I think if you go down the list, it's probably a solid list of people that the president's pissed off in some way, cut their money in some way, pulled out of trade agreements or climate accords in some way. So,
or just disrespected by his bad behavior, his unprofessional behavior.
I don't. I don't think his unprofessional behavior would allow them to make those kind of statements, but
I think you're giving them too much power and too much credit in terms of how petty some of these folks are. I mean, we've seen the footage of Trudeau, Boris Johnson, Macron sitting around after a G7 summit laughing at this guy. They were caught on tape laughing at this guy. They're human beings.
Yeah, okay. But I think these are government these are governments and they do represent the people and they represent their government. I think that it has to be a little bit more strategic than emotional. And I think that a lot of the nations that have come out in support have done so either as a way to kick the Trump man, or to just say, hey, you know, we need to get on with this. Or maybe some people believe that, like, hey, there's no cheating in the United States. We trust the United States. There could be a lot of reasons, but I think most of it is because the media has used their power and forced it down people's throats. How powerful is the media, Daryl? Like, really, as much as we hate it, right?
Of course.
And we call it out. We know they lie. We know they misinform. How powerful is it, though?
And like, couple them.
Where would you rank it?
Well,
where would you rank it?
Well, I mean, they're up there now with the complete control of information with the tech giants. I mean, all we have to do is look at what happened with the Biden story versus what happened with the Hillary emails in 2016 and how the media suppressed one and didn't suppress the other. And they've come out and they said, we cannot let this happen again or we are fucked. We will get 4 more years of a person we detest, and therefore we are going to suppress factual information that could damage the person that we want to win. Twitter are guilty of this. Facebook are guilty of this. They just shut the stuff down. They just shut the feed down. The mainstream media, the news outlets, they just publish a different narrative. They publish the narrative they want to, you know, put out there in the fore. And again, it's the sort of thing where, you know, say it enough times and it doesn't matter if it's true. It becomes true. Trump has this strategy himself of saying untruths over and over and over again until he just rams them home. His base follows. Ultimately, it becomes the narrative. It happened in the reverse now. It's happened on the flip now with social media companies suppressing a narrative, mainstream media pushing a narrative.
I think that's been going on forever.
Sure.
Yeah, that's been going on forever. Like all political parties and candidates and office holders, they have comms departments, and their job is to create the narrative and push the narrative.
Have you seen it this blatant before, ever?
Well, I mean, yeah, like narrative creation, I don't think has changed at all. I think what's changed recently was the censorship of the counterpoint or the counterfact or the alternative opinion. You know, like, hey, if we've got videos, okay, if we've got videos of places in Michigan putting boards up on windows so that observers can't see into the room, and the president tweets about that, and then Twitter labels it as some kind of label, whatever they've been labeled, and they don't do the same for any of the Democrats, that is an election interference. That is election manipulation. That is mind control. That is ugliness to the extreme. That is against everything I'm against. And I guess one of the reasons why I support the president and have supported is because it's only happening to him. And he's not that ridiculous. He's a buffoon and he says dumb shit all the time, but he's not fucking dangerous. I know what dangerous looks like. I know what evil guys look like. Donald Trump's not an evil guy. Donald Trump wants to make money. Donald Trump wants to hang out. Donald Trump wants to play golf. He wants to be liked by famous athletes. He wants to watch football and eat KFC. That's not an evil guy. Okay.
That's the thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they treat him like he is. So they say that what he says when he's fighting for himself and fighting for his opinion, they say that it's like, it's election interference, or this has not been certified yet. So they label him and they censor him and they censor his people. To me, fighting against that is worthwhile.
I think fighting against that, and you know me, I do not like the man. I think this is truly a case of the lesser of two evils for different reasons. But I am in no way, shape, or form a fan of Donald Trump. I don't. We've talked about this on the last show that we did. He is abhorrent to me as a personality. I don't agree with probably 99% of his policies, but what's happened?
Oh, really? 99%? That much?
Maybe I'm conflating. But
yeah, I think knowing you and what you're into, I think you're a little bit more into his policies. You don't like him.
It's a big part of what I don't like is his personality.
And it's fair. Yeah, it's fair. You know what? Like, I actually, like, you know, because government and everything's so big and it's a lot of random shit happening at the same time, you know, like my conspiracy theory bros and stuff out there. And I love my Alex Jones and InfoWars as much as any intellectual, educated guy. You know, it does come down to what kind of role model that person is.
There is statesmanship for that position.
There is.
It is necessary.
And you know what? And I think it's a little bit more after seeing Donald Trump for 4 years. I will give people credit out there. People like you, people like my dad, people that just fucking hate the guy because they don't like what he's about.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And I'm not minimizing how much you don't like him for the things. To me, none of that ever mattered.
And for me, that's not the biggest problem here. His personality is one thing. When you go down the road of comparing him to Hitler or, you know, a white supremacist or something, like, you're just being absurd now. There is no A to B point connection with those sorts of claims, and you can't lean on those as a justification as to why you want the other side to win or why you want him out of office. It is a reason.
Well, isn't that the reason why the president has a right to keep fighting right now and pushing through the media? Because all they've done for 4 years is say that he colluded with Russia, that he's a white supremacist, that he's literally Hitler, and that he's going to, like, lead us into wars. He shouldn't have the nuclear codes. Like, fuck, man, besides COVID, which it sucks everywhere, besides Asia, besides Taiwan for that matter, you know, right? Besides where I live.
Yeah, we're locked down again.
You know, you're locked down, you know, like, besides that, the world was a relatively safe place.
Well, and we're easily we easily brush over these peace agreements.
We're gonna have unemployment. All this stuff. He's not an evil dude. He's just morally depraved.
Correct.
Right? And I'll give that criticism credence all day. You know, and I think that when people spent that whole 4 years just saying that, which was bullshit, it makes his 70 million plus supporters who voted for him recently, just that's what more emboldened to say, no, Mr. President, you take this all the way to the wall. You don't have to be that good old politician that does it better for the country. No. You got kicked around for 4 years. This is your last chance to get yours. Go ahead.
So fight.
And I think that, I think the base is like, no, Mr. President, you better fight. You fought for 4 years and took their bullshit. You better fight this all the way. That's what the base is saying right now. And as long as the base is allowed to challenge peacefully, there will be no problems.
And
there'll be no problems.
And what's not spoken about as well is that the base has grown. The base has grown significantly.
I'm so happy you said that. Please say it again for all the idiots out there that
this is it. I mean,
thought that MAGA was nothing but white supremacists.
Just look at the numbers. 70 million people thought he was a better idea than what we've currently got or we're currently going to get. This is not, you know, he made inroads with educated college, like almost every demographic across the board. Women, significant.
12% of the black vote. The most ever for Republicans.
So you can't brush across the
32% of the Hispanic vote.
Yeah, you can't brush across the growth in his base to what was, you know, a bunch of deplorables, as Hillary quoted in 2016, a bunch of rednecks from the Bible Belt. Yeah. This is not who supports Donald Trump anymore, and there are innumerable reasons why that base has grown. One of them is because he's bucked the system. One of them is because he speaks his mind. One of them is because they felt the economic resurgence of America before COVID grabbed a hold of it. There are a number of reasons. The peace agreement, the way he's dealt with strongmen across the world, even though he puts his foot in his mouth at every single opportunity he can. And maybe he calls Kim Jong-un a good guy or whatever, or somebody, you know.
Yeah, my good friend Kim.
But this is just him. This is the personality part of Trump that you don't like. Yeah. And when Obama sat down with him in 2016, the first thing he says was, "You're looking at a war with North Korea." He distanced that war so quickly by the way he dealt with it.
I haven't thought about, I haven't thought about North Korea for 4 years.
Nobody has.
And the only time I thought about it was like, holy shit, the president's in the DMZ.
Yeah, 100%.
I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, I think that getting back to the election and the current state that it's in and all of the stuff, like we can actually sit here and we can adjudicate the Trump presidency
of course
for a long time. I honestly believe that on a policy basis and where they were, if you take out COVID, and I do think that there's some arguments with COVID. I think he's had a great run. I don't think that he did evil. You know what I mean? He had policies that maybe some people don't want, they don't agree with. Yeah. But he didn't do evil.
And adjudicating him is with policy. For me, it's more of the regulatory stuff, and I know that helps an economy and things like that. But I don't like deregulation to a point of almost environmental negligence. Let's say, right? But we can go. We can go down that road, for 2 hours trying to pull apart the policies and everything like that. But what I wanted to get to was kind of, okay, let's take this decision. Let's take where we are right now as where we're going. Like, let's take this as what we're being told. Biden is won. The Biden-Harris campaign is going to assume the White House because, again, if you listen to the media, they're saying that none of the challenges that could be, put forth by his legal team will hold any weight. And if we're running with this narrative that a lot of the global powers are running with, they're assuming that they're going to be dealing with Joe Biden, Kamala Harris going forward from January. Now, whether they do or not takes us back to what we were just talking about, but let's play it as status quo from that perspective, because we really don't have, unless we start to go down the legal route of talking about why he can challenge it.
Yeah, and that's hard. That's hard for us because we're not
a legal scholar. I can't speak speak proficiently on that.
Before we talk about what a Biden, I don't want to talk about that quick. Can we just talk about some of the weird stuff that has caught your eye with the election? Some of the things, well, I don't want to transition out of that. Okay, let's do that exercise. I'll do that thought exercise. Let's do that. This is QPO. It's good. Well, let's say that it's a Senate majority that leans to the Republicans.
Okay.
It's exactly what we want for 4 years.
That's right? The only thing stopping, in my opinion, total chaos by a Biden and Harris presidency.
Yeah.
If you get the Senate and the House and the presidency, it's terrifying to me to think of what America will look like in 4 years.
And you hate the president.
Hate him.
Like you are, and in a way where it's like, I think to myself, why doesn't Daryl like him? I think to myself, Daryl should like him. I say that all the time to myself, Daryl should like him. It makes no sense. But hey, you don't, right? You don't, right? So, but like you're saying, like you're freaked out. You weren't freaked out about President Donald Trump. You were more like, oh, this guy's a fucking loser.
Yeah, and I thought he was.
How did this guy become the president?
And I thought he was corrupt. I thought he was corrupt because of what I know about his history, how he stole from his father, the business dealings in New York. I mean, all you got to do is read some of the literature on his business dealings in the 80s in New York, and you can see that this guy, he's not a straight and narrow guy, right? He doesn't play inside the boundaries. There's no question about it. So for me, it was a level of corruption. It was a level of integrity that I didn't think he possessed. But what we're talking about, and evidence of this is been shown on the run-up through the election in the preceding weeks and even, during the sort of week of chaos that was the election, is how the surrogates of the Democratic Party, and I'm putting the mainstream media and I'm putting social media giants in this pocket, control the narrative, control the flow of information, ultimately control how we think. And if you've got a carte blanche system where you run the House, the Senate, and the presidency, the things that they might do to the world, America for one, terrifies me more than having Donald Trump in power for another 4 years. Unquestionably. Unquestionably.
Without question. Without question. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so let's work that back.
Okay.
So let's just work off of what's on the docket right now. So we've got maybe a Biden win with a Republican Senate. We've had a lot of gains in the House by the Republicans, which is the big news of what happened here. You know,
well, this goes to voting down ballot, right? This goes to the election integrity.
Yeah, sort of the unsung talking point that like the Republicans picked up a ton of seats and competitive seats, and they've got the most women in Congress ever. You know, so supposedly the all-white male party. You know? Anyways, and they had gains at the state level as well. So there is no mandate for the Bidens. Let me tell that to my friends out there who are left-leaning. I got some great friends. You have no mandate. When Donald Trump became elected in 2016, he was the president. He had the Senate. He had the GOP Congress. He had the state assemblies. He had governors. He had mayors, and he had sheriffs. It was like a wave of Donald Trump love. That's a mandate.
Yeah.
What Biden has is gridlock. And you know what? We need gridlock. I'm good with gridlock. And if Biden wins, man, I really hope that the Senate is a right-leaning Senate, and that's going to be nice. It's going to be good for everything. They won't be able to make change. They'll actually have to govern. They'll actually have to do things like they said they would.
Yes.
Like, hey, for 4 years, all we've heard is, oh, this guy, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He wants to golf. He's not. He's a carnival barker, and his people suck and all that stuff. Okay, all right. Well, you got 4 years. It's your turn. And if there is no Senate in their favor, they actually have to govern in a way that like is smart.
Well, they're going to have to govern in the way that they've preached that they're going to.
Yeah. You know, listening to everyone's ideas and keeping
Bringing
everyone involved.
together.
Not like saying, yeah, hey, you 70 million people that voted for the president, you guys, we got power now. We're kicking you down. So if everything holds, things will be all right. However, if they do somehow, if Ossoff beats Loeffler, and I don't know who the other guy is that beats, I think it's Ryan.
We're talking about Georgia, right?
Georgia, yeah, in the run-up. If that race somehow goes Democrat, I mean, major change. They'll change it for sure, because to them it will be a mandate. They've got the mandate, and you know what? Hey, elections have consequences. Wins, you get to make the choice. I've been saying that. When the president nominated Amy Coney Barrett, hey, he won. Kick rocks. When you win, you get to make moves.
You get to do what you do.
You do. That's the way it is. And you know what? I won't bitch and moan about it. I won't. But those changes, some of the critical race theory stuff that I know that you just can't stand. You know,
this is what terrifies me, mate. This is what terrifies me.
Yeah, some of the defund the police kind of stuff that they've talked about. The packing the courts ideal. I think that the Supreme Court is beautiful in its simplicity. You know, and I also worry a great deal with or without, I guess you could say, a Democrat leaning Senate, is Middle East conflict. Yeah. I know one of the things that I banked on is that the Trump people they're no foreign conflict people. The people that support Trump, the Steve Bannons, the Peter Navarros, the Lighthisers, the Kushners, the whole crew, the Michael Savages, the Rush Limbaughs, they don't want to fight foreign wars. 100%. That's always been their thing.
Yeah.
You know, and the neocons, the neoliberals that support Joe Biden, that have been full-throaty with Joe Biden, you know, the Bush family came out and congratulated him. Condoleezza Rice congratulated him. All that crowd, you know, the Mitt Romneys and stuff. They want war. They want war.
Of course they do.
They will be fighting a Middle East conflict. And when they do, I can't wait to make the post on Facebook to all of my friends on the left that just, I don't know, to me, if you're going to vote against a guy's character over the policy.
This is what worries me.
So those are my big concerns. That's what I perceive.
This is what worries me for sure.
The rest of it, you know, I don't believe in the tax increases.
No.
Too much Wall Street money flowed into the Democrats.
Of course.
And the Democrats, they won't make a wealth tax, but they will raise taxes because, hey, rich people don't pay taxes.
Mate, if they were
newsflash,
if they were interested in anything to do with taxing the rich or reforming Wall Street or anything like that, Bernie would have won. They cut his legs off at the knees as soon as he was pushing that, and they saw that it started to have any sort of traction with the voting public. They cut that off at the knees. You could tell they're not interested in that. They're rich people.
Without question, there will be a special prosecutor announced by the Republican Senate to investigate the Biden family and all the stuff on the hard drive.
As there should be.
That hard drive was real. That hard drive got suppressed. Anyone out there who believes that hard drive isn't real is a fraud. They're lying to themselves. They hate Trump that much that they've let logic be clouded in their mind.
And I feel
there will be
that. Yeah. I feel that the tech giants, the Facebook and the Twitters, that was their political donation to the Biden campaign in this cycle.
Mm. Explain what you mean by that.
Well, they
political
shut it,
donation. I like that.
Well, they shut it down, right? What is more, you've got Wall Street pouring hundreds of millions into the campaign. You've got all of these different industries basically saying, yeah, we're okay with the Biden campaign because they know there's no real difference to their bottom line either way. But the tech companies have a different way to donate. They have a different way to contribute. And that is by suppressing or allowing the flow of information. If the Biden hard drive contents would have been front and center, and the mainstream media are in this as well, but the Facebooks and the Twitter specifically, because we saw it as blatantly as it was suppressed. I mean, they shut down the press secretary's Twitter. They shut down.
Unbelievable.
They shut down
the president.
Yeah, they shut down. It was a New Yorker, right? The New Yorker article that came out. They shut down their Twitter feed, right?
The Post.
Yeah, the Post. You could not retweet that story. You would be shut. You would be suspended, or you would be blocked, and it would say invalid if you tried to put that story out there. You couldn't do it. So to me, what I mean is, rather than some super PAC or something like that, it was like, no. We'll just control what goes out. That's more powerful than money.
Yeah, what do they get back, though? What's their get?
They get...
What does Biden represent that Trump doesn't?
Information, data, the stuff Snowden tells us about, the stuff that Assange tells us about. They still get the back doors. I don't think Trump likes them because they don't like Trump. And I think he was going to look to regulate them in a second term a lot more harshly than he even attempted. I mean, he didn't really attempt to, that much in the first term. But I think
two things. Let me slow you down because I want to ask you about Snowden and Assange. Pardon or not? Yes or no?
I'd be straight away.
Oh, I would be so happy if they both got pardoned. Like fucking so happy.
To me, that makes Donald Trump a hero if he does
worth
that.
It. Yeah. He's a legend. He'll be a legend. Like he'll be so beloved in that community, which, hey, that's a community you want on your side.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Okay. I'm glad we're right on there. Okay. So
I think he should start releasing stuff. He's still the president. No matter what happens,
I want him.
He's still the president.
I want him to be careful. I want him to be careful about that because that could sully his legacy.
He should.
That could be sore loser talk, and I don't want him to get like loose with that. Hey, look, if he loses, if they don't let him challenge, and of course, politics is a dogfight.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna fight it. He's a fighter, right? That's why the people who like him. He'll fight this, and if he wins, he wins. If he loses, he loses. But on the way out, don't sully what you did because what you did is substantial, and he might be the greatest 4-year president of all time. But certainly in our time.
But if he was to, I'm not saying, I don't know what you mean by like kind of just releasing everything and sullying it.
I don't. What I'm saying is that like it's like he's beloved by quite a few people at this point. Like it's really weird with Trump. You either like super hate him or you're like really into him, right? I've never seen any president like that before. Certainly not a potential 4-year 1-term president. He's really popular. Okay. And those people who love him, like, I think they'll go to the wall for him. But I don't want him to get like sour on the way out. Hey, if you lose, don't start declassifying shit to like say, oh fuck you, I'm gonna mess up this place before I leave. I'm gonna trash this place.
Like what? What do you think? Like give me an example of what would do that.
I mean, just anything. Just yeah, I guess JFK, going all the way with JFK, Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
Just, of course we'd like to know, right? But he should have did that in the 4 years where he was president. Don't do that on the way out, and like give them more for you. Don't give them more on the way out. Like, go out with respect for America if that's what you've been about. Because, I guess like one of the things is like, I think his people really believe that he loves America and that he wants to fight for the blue collar guy. That's a real connection. Don't sell out the office on the way out, because the office is still America. It's still the president of the United States. Yeah. Don't give the media more fodder to throw at you. Like they're going to try to bury Trump, the private citizen. They're going to try to end Trumpism in the GOP.
Oh,
don't give them more. Just cut it off. Hey, pardon the right people, right?
Yeah.
Pardon Assange. Pardon Snowden. Hey, that will give enough red meat to your followers. They'll love you forever. Don't go start tossing out declassified shit. However, declass everything involving the Russia investigation. Get it out there.
Yeah.
Get it out there.
And I wouldn't mind a little bit more on the aliens either.
They put it out there this year and we all ignored it.
No, nobody gave a shit. That's how 2020 is.
Yeah, the Air Force told us we had unidentified flying objects for real, and everyone's like, okay.
Fravor's been on every podcast you can imagine. Bob Lazar's been on every podcast you can imagine, and nobody gives a shit.
No one cared. It was that's a great subplot to this year, is that we released the alien tapes and everyone changed the channel back to Trump.
Yeah, if they're legit, they're up there like, well, feeling a bit dejected. Like, I thought we were gonna have a bit more of a show than this, boys. Like, we can't even make this work with Trump. Come on, it's a bit insane.
That's how polarizing he is. That's how incredible these last 4 years. It's been an incredible time. I think people get. I think some people get so wrapped up, in that like one man can control their life so much. Like, no. I think that it takes a long time and generations to create policy, and it does take legislatures, and it takes the people to write laws, not presidents.
It's true.
Presidents are mostly foreign policy folks. If you were to actually look at like what federal governments are, or provincial governments, or state governments affect your lives.
Yeah.
County governments affect your lives. Like county governments, and as far as like who they appoint for principals and superintendents for education,
100%.
they have much more effect on your life than the president.
Dude,
you just don't like, it's a popularity contest.
Our local government here is so bad, and I live in southeast London. It is so bad that one decision to change how the roads are constructed to accommodate cyclists has thrown our borough into absolute disarray and chaos. That has an immediate effect on my day-to-day life. Boris.
Oh yeah, your day-to-day. So like explain to me, like, how is it messing with you?
So I live, you might have heard of Greenwich Park, huge Royal Park in London. Yeah. That's 5 minutes from my house, right? 2-minute drive. It will now take me over 35 minutes to get there. Because
sounds like you're living in Asia, bro.
What they've done is they've taken a 2-lane road and they've effectively cut those 2 lanes in half to make a full car lane for bikes. So what they've done in addition to that is they've put like barriers up, these little poles, like all the way along the road. And now if there's a bus going down the road and that bus stops, you can't overtake it. But more importantly, neither can emergency services. So the response time for ambulances or firemen or policemen.
Wait. So yeah, I was about to say, so an ambulance can't overtake that?
No, because there's no room. Physically no room.
Oh.
Because cars can't veer out of the way. And if it's packed coming up the other way, which it inevitably will be because you've taken the flow of traffic ability away by a full lane, nobody can overtake a bus. Right, so there's that's happening in both directions. Now you're just at a standstill, and it is from 6 in the morning until 10 at night every single day. And that's local councillors and local government making transport decisions without proper consultation or risk assessment that has thrown the borough into disarray. So that, to your point, that has a lot more consequences on my day-to-day life than what Boris is talking to the health secretary about a potential vaccine for COVID does.
I think that's the elephant in the room, and how all of this revolves around some of the theories about where we're heading, and I've been touching on them pretty passively on my Facebook wall with a lot of my writing and stuff, talking about the debt reset and what the debt reset could mean for everyone, and the the digital wallet and the digital currencies from central banks, and how they'll sort of skip over the government, and they will skip over the banks, and they will get directly to you. And and some of the wild theories that are out there talking about how COVID-19 is being used to usher that in. I don't believe in conspiracies, but I pay attention to every coincidence that comes my way, and I try to look for patterns. And I can honestly say to you that the amount of momentum that I'm hearing in the financial side, specifically for crypto wallets, with the fact that the central banks are beating that drum that we got to have a digital currency, and the fact that China's sitting there with a massive hard on going, sweet, that's the end of the US dollar. This is the scariest thing. To me, it's the scariest thing, right? It's certainly the end of.
I know what Facebook post you're referring to, and I want you to expand on it.
So since 2001, when they hit the towers, everything for me's changed, right? I think for me, that's the demarcation line. It's like before that, it was life was free. You could do around, you can, as Ice Cube would say, you can fuck around and catch a triple double, right? you could just live life, After 2001, everything changed, and it's just more and more and more. And I remember when COVID first hit, one of my first posts was, I just hope that COVID is not the war on, and I used underscore to create the blank. Is it the war on virus now? Like, we had the war on drugs, we had the war on terrorism, now we have the war on virus. And then governments, whether they're consciously doing it or not, they're rewriting policy and creating new rules and new policy and laws that restrict rights and restrict freedom. I mean, it happened with terrorism quite a bit, right? It's the balance between security, safety, and freedom. And
what are you willing to give up in order to be safe?
The biggest argument that I have with people on the left about COVID these days is not necessarily on like how Trump handled it or how Boris handled it. It's like, oh, those fucking Westerners with their rights. I'm like, whoa, what do you mean? And these are like Canadians living in Asia. Oh, why'd everyone gotta like worry about their rights? And it's like, so to me, it's like, was it designed? I don't know if it was designed, but it's certainly being used. And if when you're a money guy and you're thinking about the money, I know those money guys. They don't care. They don't care about humanity.
No,
they don't care. They're counters. They don't. And this is a fantastic opportunity for a lot to happen that sort of needs to happen in the financial system because there's so much debt, right? There's unsustainable amount of debt. Our politicians talk about it all the time, that there's already too much debt. We're getting to the point where we can't service our own debt, blah, blah, blah. Canada's credit rating gets revised.
I saw that.
It got revised once this year. It could be revised again. So far, so good. No. But basically, there's a potential insolvency coming, which means that it's a rewrite. There's an insolvency coming. There's a pension fund crisis coming where there's not enough money to pay for entitlements, both in the public and the private sector. So what do you do? Well, do you use this moment to create such a bad situation that everything, you know, because humans don't make change when things are going good.
Correct.
So you create this, oh, we got this virus over here. Oh, the virus is natural. The virus is organic, but I'm going to use that shit.
We got to prepare accordingly.
And I'm going to, yeah. That's great. That's great public language right there. We have to prepare accordingly by order of the Ministry of National Health. And people who have incentive to make change, they'll make it. And I think that the virus works hand in hand with the changes that we're going to see to the monetary system there.
So what happens when we go full?
Trying to hint on.
So what happens when we go full crypto then? When because it was, you know, when Bitcoin emerged, when cryptos emerged, it was, you know, it was the major financial institutions that were delegitimizing it because ultimately, well, from my perspective, they didn't know how to regulate it for their own favor yet. It seems like they're figuring that out and using catastrophic circumstances like viruses, as you said, to make that shift. But what does a transition look like? What's the end game for these guys in your perspective? Because you said lack of ownership, you said lack of, you know, real money, you know, things like this. So
yeah.
Expand on that for me.
So to understand, the one thing I always like to say to people is pull the bill out in your pocket and read who issued that. And it is never the government of the UK. It's always like the Bank of England.
Yeah.
The question is, well, is the Bank of England, is it a government institution? Do you have direct representation, access to vote in who's there? No, you don't.
No, you don't.
And the people that back up the assets of the Bank of England are private shareholders. Yeah. They're different banks and they're different institutions and stuff. So for one, currency as we know it is issued by rich people. Let's just start there. It's issued by the uber wealthy. And the governments borrow currency at rate, right? So they borrow it out, say 1 or 2%. And then they issue it to us through programs, and they spend it through, you know, whatever stimulus, help out through the virus and stuff like that. Ultimately, they have to get that money back and give that to their creditors, which are these central banks and these super rich people, through interest payments. And the way they do that is through taxation, right?
Exactly.
So at a certain rate, you can only borrow so much where your returns start to not be enough for what you've borrowed. Like, you know, basically debt to service ratio, right?
Yep.
As a household, you know, you try to keep that debt to service ratio at a certain rate where you can service your debt payments, but you got enough money to make ends meet. You got enough money to live. Well, we're past there. We're getting there. Well, we were getting there before COVID, but
yes.
Like when you're talking about borrowing $6-7 trillion, you start to get to the point where it's like, hey, are we at the point now where it's like time to hit the reset button? So, okay. So that's a little bit about like, monetary policy from me, the way I understand it. I have arguments with my financial friends all the time, about the efficacy of central banks and what they do. And certainly they have some public utility for the people to control inflation. But at the end of the day, they are controlling the costs of goods through the issuing of currency backed up on their own assets. It's just the scam. It's the biggest scam. And we pay for it on our tax dollars.
Yes.
That's where our tax dollars go. Our income tax, our consumption tax. Of course, our tax dollars make roads. But like, could you imagine, you know, making roads for like non-bloated prices? And like, I mean, anyways, I don't want to go.
No, that's absolutely right. And I just wanted you to expand on it a little bit because oftentimes people
let me get there.
They miss the bigger picture.
Yeah, let me get there then. So we're at a point now where there's a new theory, a new monetary theory called modern monetary theory. It's MMT. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's this. It's just the cash machine. That deficits don't matter.
Yes.
Okay. That's the new. And it supposedly MMT will usher in UBI. It will create the foundation to support UBI. Okay, I've been on the fence back and forth about UBI, but I'm now officially against it because of the things that I've been hearing. So, you know, there's some documents that have been released and there's some, you know, white papers and stuff like that that have been leaked to different sources talking about how there's going to be an opportunity, like it's sort of like a amnesty, where you can, if you're an indebted person, you can get a one-time write-down of your, say, your house loan, credit card, everything like that. You can start collecting UBI if you're willing to sign over your private assets.
Correct.
And that's one thing that just raises a huge red flag for me. And I would implore any of my friends out there, no matter how bad it gets, never do that.
Well, doesn't this remove all property? Doesn't this remove all private ownership? Doesn't this make you then a tool of whatever new system comes after the reset occurs?
Yeah. So and then to expand on the idea, it's basically like, and this is, I mean, that is sort of the more of the conspiratorial side of it, but a lot of these smart people out there, guys like Raoul Pal from, Real Vision Finance, you could probably watch him on YouTube. I subscribe to his Global Macro Investor for some macro investing insights, just, really good information.
Okay.
He's basically saying that, the central banks are right. They're in process of creating the digital wallet, where they're now issuing the currency, and they're skipping the government and the bank, and they're going directly to Daryl. And that's great, because they can get you money quicker. They can incentivize you, but they can now also control every one of your purchases, and they have complete visibility on your purchase because you're using the digital wallet. Once the digital wallet gets put out at a certain level, let's say everyone's got 70% of the public has one, they'll just say cash is done.
Correct.
Those bills that you've got saved, they're gone.
Yep.
They're gone. The only thing that matters is in that wallet. It's the only currency that and they'll do that by, like, banks won't take bills no more. Government won't accept bills no more, because they're creditors for the government. Like, people need to understand that our government of Canada owes them money.
Yes.
Like, Canada owes them money. And when you owe somebody money, they can tell you what to do.
And
they can tell you how they want it back.
And the same thing happened with the UK government, because the UK government during COVID has borrowed about 6 to 8% of our total GDP to fund the relief during this crisis. Where is most of that money gone? Not to the people. That's gone to big corporations, and they continue to do that. The only thing that's come to the people in some way, shape, or form is the wage relief scheme, right? The furlough scheme,
which is a pittance, which is nothing. A pittance when you look at it. Yeah,
it's a drop in the bucket if you're looking at the big picture of what they've actually borrowed, which is ultimately what we're borrowing, which is what we're ultimately going to have to pay back, and we're going to be in a position where we don't have that money to pay back.
Yeah. So basically, when you're operating under your digital wallet, there's no more things like, hey, the kid down the road, it's the winter time, he shovels your driveway for $20. Actually, I don't know what you pay kids these days. You're probably paying them $100 knowing now. I used to get paid $10, but I don't know what you're paying kids these days, because I haven't been in Canada for 18 years in the wintertime. Very proud of that, living on my tropical island here. But cut your lawn, little errands, tip the waitress, all that kind of stuff that the government doesn't have visibility on. That's gone.
100%.
Now there's complete visibility on that. And do we want to live in that restrictive an environment? Now, the reason why I say this, because I think most people, the answer to that is no. We like the system right now. Hey, let's have the system a little bit of freedom where we can operate. Hey, that makes. Hey, I'll give Uncle Sam or old Sir John A. Macdonald my money on my taxes. I'll pay my taxes, but hey, come on, let me live a little bit free here without you on my ass all the time. Let me pay the guy that did my deck, or the kids that painted my room. Let me pay them $150 without you dipping in, get your beak wet. Well, that's gone, and that's going to be gone because we locked down forever. And that's why I'm worried that the virus has become the new war on to issue in new policies that are beneficial for them and not us. And please, hey man, I got mums and dads that are older, and I got family that are older too. And thank God so far nobody's been sick and nobody's died in my orbit. But I know the numbers, bro. Those numbers are not worth ushering a system.
No, it's a great point. And when this whole thing started, I was fully compliant, let's say, right? wash the hands, stay indoors, stay away from people, all of this.
So was I.
And
So was I.
we talked about it on our last episode, right? You said, Asia and
Mask up, baby.
everybody's mask friendly, everybody's pro mask over there, and I even said that to some people, and even my mandate here to, in my own personal head is to an extent, well, don't lock everything down, but let's take that precaution as a courtesy, right? Let's be pro mask until we know something more definitive. And other than that, we have to get on with things because this cannot be sustained.
Yeah.
This cannot be sustained. It's already falling to bits. So for me now, like you just said, I'm looking at the numbers. And the numbers don't equate to the measures being put in place and the damage being done financially, to our mental health, to what's going to take hold long term. It just doesn't bear out for me. So I've got a massive problem with how everybody's handling COVID now.
Okay, so let me give you a scenario here. So since 2009, we've had a couple of really large corrections of the stock market. Obviously, the global financial crisis threw things into a really large tiz.
Mm-hmm.
And recently with COVID in March, we had a really big drop, but it's pretty much climbed back to where it was before.
Yeah.
So what happens if we have this debt insolvency, right? What if we go into this downward spiral where we've printed so much money, we've lost faith in government, we've lost faith in the currency, we've lost faith in humans being able to work together, and it's just a massive like unwinding of just trying to sell and nobody can sell. That's what an insolvency is, right? Okay, so what happens then?
Well, you have to delegitimize the currency. You have to start over effectively.
Okay, so you start, okay, exactly, right? So now these people jump in and they say, well, here's what we got. This is the new replacement. And it will be sold to us in a way where all of the upsides of everything, starting with UBI, right? Starting with UBI, number one. Oh, yeah, you know what? You boomers who had your first RRSPs or your 401ks or your pension fund or sorry, not pension fund, let me get that in a minute, but your blue chip stock investment got wiped out during the global financial crisis. Oh, and it just got it again? Well, guess what? Your retirements are gone because your pension fund's shot too. But we'll save you. Here's some UBI your way.
Yep.
Couple thousand Canadian bucks a month. It'll take care of your rent. You'll be able to drive around in the summertime. Might be able to get a golf membership. If you're thrifty enough, you can eat out once a week, right? That's how it's going to be sold. And you've got a massive demographic, the boomers, who have been, hey, let's face it, they're the most benefited and lucky generation of human history, right? Hey, they're a huge voting bloc too. All of a sudden, they're just like, yeah, we have to take it.
Yeah.
You don't have to even sell it to them. You just create the environment where they got to take it.
If it's
don't,
better than the alternative, they're going to do it because the alternative is, like you said, starvation, poverty, and complete degradation of their final years.
And all of this comes back to like some of the stuff that like, I ask my friends about how they feel about lockdown measures and stuff. And they always say, well, I'm from a broad sense, I'm against it. But like, what if one of your family got sick?
That's the play.
That's the play. And it's the same thing. It's like, well, your family, if they get that far where they lock us down so long over the fact where we need to borrow more money, and currencies just plunge and everything hits that reset, they're going to be taking UBI. And once they take UBI, everyone else does because they're too big of a demographic to not influence the rest of us.
And I don't want to go down a conspiratorial route, but the things with digital currency that lead to social scoring systems and monitored spending and health insurance and how you're looking
No. That's all like on the table. That's not conspiracy.
Well, this is what I mean. I was kind of saying it in a facetious way because, people will be like,
no.
You got your tinfoil hat on here, but it's all
people
all
are
point A, point B, point C, point D. It all connects.
You are already rewarded in your insurance payments for the way you drive.
Yeah.
Women historically have gotten better premiums because they're safer. You don't think that like technocrats who are going to be taking control of our society through Internet of Things, AI, digital wallets, tracking systems, you don't think that they're going to be incentivizing every behavior in a certain way?
Every single one.
Of course they are.
Every single one.
Of course they are. Like, and that's where we're going. Now, if you've resigned yourself to the fact where it's like, fuck it, I can't fight it, I'm good with that, I'm just going to go for the ride. Hey, baby, hey, you know, I got some friends that are like that. Hey, they'll say, Brooke, can't fight it.
Well, Elon Musk is pushing this narrative. What are you going to do? You're not going to be able to fight it. It's already effectively in motion. So it's going that way anyways. But what I want to do right now,
I'd rather be able to give a full-throated defense of liberty and myself and stand for myself and sleep at night, and know that I tried to do my part.
Yeah.
Than deal with that shit. But no way, man.
But that goes towards the folks who would want to usher that in, and how COVID is connected to the U.S. president's election, the presidential election, and the fact that ultimately this COVID situation is one of the main factors, or at least as we're being told, it's one of the main factors why people didn't vote for Trump. Because as COVID went, the economy went. So it was a major issue for why people didn't vote for him, because of his mishandling of COVID. Now, all the things that we just spent 15, 20 minutes talking about in terms of crypto and the great reset that could ultimately be coming, the ones in favor of that would be the big tech giants, because they would be most primarily placed to take advantage of this. Because if you look at Facebook, Facebook have already tried to launch Libra. That's their cryptocurrency, right? So they're already playing in this game right now. So if they have a play to suppress information that would then lead to the person that they want getting elected, that is going to be in favor of them taking this policy and pushing it forward. I love Andrew Yang, but there's no bigger proponent of UBI than Andrew Yang, and he sells it like a great thing because automation is coming.
Oh yeah, he does a great job.
He loves it.
He started to convince me. Yeah,
he started to convince me too. But if you put the dots together, the Democrats are playing with the tech companies who ultimately want to usher in this kind of a reset financially and economically, so there can be more control, which allows them more data siphoning, which allows these point scoring systems for more ultimate control. And again, I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but
no, you're not though. You're perfectly right. Like,
we're on that track, is what I'm saying.
Did you watch that Netflix show called like The Social
Dilemma?
Distraction? Or yeah, did you watch that?
I
was listening to the guy who did that on Joe Rogan's podcast before, and he was talking about how social media is basically a attention. They fight for your attention, right? And the reason why those companies are so valuable, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why like Twitter's not valuable. They don't make money.
No.
Okay. But what they do is they analyze your behavior. And they've had machines watching us now for what, 10 years?
Yep.
More? Okay. So they've been mapping us. They are the tool that the central bankers will partner with to create the ability to do what it is you're saying.
Correct.
Oh, Daryl ate too much red meat this week. Red meat is bad for the environment because of cows and the amount of land that's needed. And it's also bad for his health because he got a family history of heart disease. Mm-hmm. Daryl shouldn't be eating red meat. Boom. Social credit score downgraded.
Absolutely.
That's coming. If you don't think that's coming, I'm sorry. Like, you're just not intelligent enough.
Well, this is it. I mean, if you don't see that this is the path and how these things, and that's one of the things that I wanted to point to, because I think COVID is being used, like you said, for the next war.
It's being used
what,
for that,
right? And
it's being used for that.
Connecting those dots, it's only 2 or 3 degrees of separation to actually put the puzzle together to say that if you have a party like the Democrats coming into power, who would then potentially control the House, the Senate, and the presidency, who have effectively sided with folks like Antifa and BLM and folks like this and pushing critical race theory. And then you hear people like Kamala Harris saying it's not equality, it's not equity, it's equality. We don't want everybody to have the same starting point. We just want them to have the same end point. Well, they're pushing for equality of outcome. UBI gives you a version of equality of outcome because you know what everybody's got, and therefore you can control everybody's behavior. And like you said, these
incentives, and the incentives, and they allow for parity.
Yeah,
they allow for everyone to be the same because they're designed to create parity.
Yes,
they're designed to upgrade you, downgrade you based on behaviors so that you stay in a range.
Of course.
I mean, I do that all the time at my company. I'm trying to create parity because when you've got a team, you want everyone to feel about even. You don't want anyone to be above someone else in the company. Daryl, let me say something to the viewers because this is really important. We can say, I can say unequivocally that COVID is being used to generate these outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind and be compassionate about those that have been affected, those who have died, those who have had family members be sick, and those who have had to suffer through it. I can be compassionate. I have compassion for the people out there that are scared to go out, okay? And I can also carry the same thought in my mind that there's evil people out there that will seize on this opportunity and they will use it to push nefarious means. Now, what I'll say to those folks that are always fighting back with me and mansplaining to me online going, Brooke, you're not like thinking about us. You know, look, I am. I'm actually thinking about us on a large level here. I'm thinking about like the future.
Isn't the person
and
that
I
can
say,
look
like,
through the first guys or the first reflective
yeah,
mirror?
Like guys, like I want to say to those people, like, please think about this with me. Think about this with me and Daryl in this moment and say to ourselves, we're humanity. We've gone through worse. Are we going to hide? And what is it? Like, I had a really good friend challenge me on, Brooke, are you saying like how much is a life worth? Are you trying to put a value on a life? That's a hard question to answer. And it's a guy I really respect. And I think that that's the conversation right now. And to me, it's not a dollar value on a life. It's a way of life versus a life. And we need to preserve our way of life as humans. We weren't put on this earth to live like that. We're different, man.
And that's why
can't have.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can't have us all being the same. We're not, and that's what makes our lives beautiful and awesome.
100%, man.
Is that we're different.
100%, and that's why when we were talking earlier about again the House, the Senate, and the presidency being aligned in the same color, we're in a really, really precarious position because have you seen the Kamala Harris video she tweeted out on election day or the day before or day after or something like that? Done in a really compassionate cartoon.
Oh, I know, right?
Tugging on the heartstrings, and that's what gets me about it is, I'm sure you like Jordan Peterson like I do.
Love Jordan Peterson. Yep.
He said it this succinctly. Equality of opportunity is what everybody should strive for, and we should all be pushing towards. But equality of outcome is one of the most nefarious thoughts and processes a person can have.
Daryl, it's communism.
It's communism, and we already know how that story works.
I mean, that video was communism.
It was communism,
but with cool graphics, and
it was communism. She said it in the video. Yeah. She said it in the video. It's about all of us ending up in the same place. People take that at first glance as a compassionate narrative to say, well, she just wants to bring up the struggling, and don't have the foresight or the historical reference to look past what is in that meaning and what that actually looks like historically. And I'm reading the Gulag Archipelago. I've been reading it for ages, on and off. This is about the Bolshevik Revolution. This is one example of what happens when you instill Marxism into a society and play that equality of outcome game. You see it, you live in the region. The social scoring in China is already happening.
Yeah, it's been happening for a minute, for about 3 years now.
So,
hey, let me ask you a real question. I want to get your take on,
please,
on it. Yeah. You know, like, okay, so we've got we just said it, like, communism. How many friends do you have that are like, I want communism? Because I have a few.
I have a few that would say that they want equality of outcome, not knowing that the line is directly connected to communism.
No, I've got actual friends that are like great with communism. They're good with it. They want it. Yeah, that's what they want. They still believe in it. They think that it's never been applied the right way. They keep saying it's never been done the right way. And they'll point out, like, well, the United States suppressed it, you know, or they didn't let it grow, or, well, I look at it like there's, well, there was a fight, you know, between one side of the thought process and the other, and the one side won, you know, because the other side wasn't good enough. But I've got friends who actually espouse it.
I don't have anybody that will outright say, I want communism. I think communism is the better choice, or that it's just not been applied in the right way. I've got people that, you know, love Black Lives Matter, and they think that this is and this is a, you know, a race towards, you know, equality. And again, I've even asked them, what do you think about equality of outcome? And they will say, I think it's a great idea. And at that point,
it sounds awesome, doesn't it?
It sounds awesome. But at that point,
equality of outcome. What? We're all the same? Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, we're not.
Nobody's different. That's amazing. It doesn't exist. It's a fallacy. And the more you push towards trying to make that a truism or a true reality, the more dangerous a position that you find yourself in. It's precisely when I read the manifesto of Black Lives Matter, I was like, oh, this is something I have to stay as far away as possible from, and at every opportunity show them in the light that they actually should have shined on them. Not the light that they're trying to push, because this is what I have a problem with the Democrats with, is they have the nefarious intentions of running things in this way, but they're the party that smiles in your face, stabs you in the back. And everybody likes a smiling face, and they don't notice the knife coming around to stab them in the back. And all they're doing is being shepherded towards all of these things that we just spent the last half an hour talking about. And that's my problem, and that's why I said on my last podcast, I don't know if, in fact, I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump is a better option than the Democrats, if for no other reason than that. Because that ends in chaos and death in droves.
I mean, I'm going to refer to my notes because, like, you know, we're headed down, like, a little bit of, like, the analysis, you know, and let me see. I'm going to go, give me a second here.
Okay.
Wait. I'm going to go. Have you seen this? Have you seen that video?
Is that them outside of the guy's house?
Yeah. So there's this video that's out there. I saw it. It's basically the BLM Antifa crowd in the suburbs making noise, shining lights on people's houses, telling them, wake up, get out here on the street, right? All that militant talk, all that real Nazi talk. You ain't with us.
Nazi talk.
You hate us, and it's good to hate, you know, this stupidness. And it's this guy comes out and he says, yo, like, I got a Biden sign on my yard, bro. He doesn't say it like that, of course. He's not as cool as we are, but he says, I got a Biden sign right there. And they're like, that's white supremacy. Just because by saying that you've got a Biden sign is white privilege. White privilege is not, and they're like calling the guy out because he won't leave his house, probably because he's scared shitless.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's probably thinking to himself, like, wow, man, maybe I shouldn't have voted for Joe Biden. Because one of the threads that I keep seeing with a lot of MAGA people, they'll bring these videos up, MAGA people, right-leaning people is like, yo, this far left demon that you guys got on the left, it ain't going away because you won. It's emboldened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've got, like, pivoting back to the American presidential race, they've got a little bit of a civil war going on in the left. And that's an ideological thing that's not just contained in the United States. I think it's kind of like populism swept the right, and populism took over, generally Republican style, conservative style governments, and swung them to the populism circle. I think you're seeing a little battle go on. I don't think it's obviously out in the open with the Sandy Cortez crowd and against the, basic, milk toast Democrats that are saying, listen, we are going to lose the middle class forever. Trump and his crowd have flanked us. That was our traditional power base, unions, labor, working class, fight for the working class. We're going to lose these people forever if you guys keep screaming about socialism. And if people out on the street keep, like, that guy doesn't live in a nice neighborhood, Daryl.
No.
He lives in, like, what would probably be like a working class neighborhood, and they're like yelling at him to get out of his house, or you're not with us. I mean, that, hey, part of me says, hey, Mr. President, like, hey, I've supported, I would say, probably 70% of what you've been about for the last 4 years. Let them destroy themselves.
Yeah.
Don't get in the way of letting them do that. You'll have a legacy. You'll control the party. Your family will control the party for the next, dozen or so years. They'll have a good grip on it for a while. If that's where they're going to go, hey, take a step back for the greater good.
Yeah, this is a snake eating its tail.
That's my advice. Yeah, that would be my advice to the president in that respect. I do say no, challenge all the way, because I do think that what's going on, to circle back with all the talk we had about COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I got friends that are really, who were never Donald Trump guys, that would message me and say, oh, the president's got to win, man. And I'm like, whoa, wait, really? And they're like, yeah, he's got to win or we're fucked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? And I'm like, because he's the only one fighting against this madness of lockdowns. He's the only one fighting against this madness of Marxism and Black Lives Matter on the street. And I'm like, wow, you hated the president 4 years ago. What changed? You're like, well, the summer changed. COVID-19 changed. Hey, you know what? And I said, well, don't you think the president mismanaged this? Well, yeah, we could be a little bit healthier, but, like, I'm losing everything right now. And if we really truly believe that, like, creating debt and creating, like, people, like, loss leads people to, like, a point where, like, they've got to accept UBI, and we usher in modern monetary theory, and none of this stuff is conspiracy.
No,
this is all real.
No. This is
if we really believe that COVID will accelerate that, and policy around COVID will accelerate that, like, this ain't Bill Gates is going to implant us with a microchip kind of shit with vaccines. This ain't that. This is money talk. If you really believe that, then, like, yeah, you probably wanted the president to win. So I had some friends reaching out to me that I was shocked. I was like, wow, I'm really,
it's what did it for me.
I'm really surprised.
It's what did it for me. It was just seeing the connection between, well, it was one, paying attention to history, and not enough people do that, because these stories have already been told before, that if you go down, because the step after them telling that guy to get out on the street and join them is they go into his house, pull him out of the house, and make them walk with them. And when they make him walk down the street with them, some of them go into his house and claim it as their own. Because why should he have it if they don't? Because this is about equality of outcome.
It's crazy. There it is right there. There it is right there. Like, say that again one more time. Just say that one more time.
Well, the path.
Why should you have that house and not us?
That's right. It's about now, and this is what I said to somebody the other day, and the whole rhetoric around BLM and Antifa and, this critical race theory is the subjugation of people today for things that happened in the past that have no responsibility to bear on the folks that live today. But yet it's about reverse subjugation rather than a conversation about how to rectify the situation in a way that is fair and reasonable. And it is the ability now to codify a problem based on anything that you take offense to. So pronouns are one. race relations are another. And what you're seeing now is that anything can lead to a catastrophic outcome because the point of what they're trying to do is tear down the system. And the reason that they want to tear down the system is so that they can rebuild it in the image of equality and equity. But that is a complete fallacy, because anybody that rips down a system...
it's a complete, because there's always going to be the layer above it.
Anybody that rips down a system and claims that they want to rebuild it in the benefit of all are actually just hiding behind the guise that they're the ones that want to be in power. And the reason that they want to be in power is so that they can subjugate people who they feel have subjugated them in the past. That's it.
And please, hey, Mark Zuckerberg, if you want this utopian society, then like share some of your ducats. Invest in my new tech company, bro.
100%.
Hey, here's a tweet that I screenshotted. Google, Facebook, and Amazon are far more of a threat to democracy than Trump ever was.
100%.
True or false?
100%.
100%, right? 100%. You know, I think that myself, yourself, and I would say in our generation, our age, I would say like 60, 70% of our generation would agree with that. I think some people would be on the fence a little bit. They might say it to you privately. But like, what about boomers? Are boomers going to say that?
No.
Amazon is... No. That's where the disconnect is. Here you go.
There's something to be said about our generation being the ones that hopefully could bridge this gap. Because I'm telling you right now, the boomers and such are too far gone to fight against this. The generation that has come after us are too complacent and they've already ingested this. They've already taken the red pill. There's only us who are sort of the last generation that saw the internet come in, or did away with the house phone, or, you know, these sorts of kind of technologies and the way we were helicopter parented and things like that. Like, there's a different... we're the wedge. If you don't have us, you get complete compliance, because like you said, these folks who are the boomers, they're going to have to do it, or they're going to get...
Yeah, they're going to have to.
They're going to get, you know, the worst ending to their life that they could ever imagine. So their compliance is almost written in. Now, the ones who are younger than us, they've never grown up without anything other than being tracked. They don't see it almost as anything unusual. We're the ones that have seen the transition. We're the ones that need to speak out on what this manifests out like. Because the younger ones don't have the historical reference to revert back to how this story goes and how we know this story always ends up. This is a 100% success rate for communism. When implanted and instilled in a society, it works out in the worst, most catastrophic way that it possibly can. There is no middle ground to this.
And it's why I always say that President Trump was Generation X's president.
Yeah.
I say that privately with a lot of people. I say he was our president. He was the Generation X, you know, moody, not sure of himself, precocious.
Yeah.
Not precocious, sorry. Was it, what is it? Prescient? Like, kind of like, you know, you ruse about things, you talk out loud, you know, you're not necessarily buttoned up like the golden generation, and you're not like truly liberal like the boomers were. You know, you were a little bit of a mixture. You weren't sure. He was our guy. To me, he was very representative of Gen X, a straddling of two very strong generations. And you're right, like millennials and Gen Z, they've grown up in the matrix now.
Yep.
It's going to be hard. Like, it's going to be hard to withdraw. Like, if, you know, I try to keep my daughter as aware of things as possible, but like, she came to me, Daddy, why does the president want to shut down TikTok? TikTok's great. And it's like, oh man, it's going to be so hard getting these people off this stuff. It's an addiction.
Well, that goes back to the social dilemma and, you know, all the things that those folks were talking about in that documentary. You know,
I'm going to watch that. I haven't watched it yet.
Dude,
Joe.
it's
I just listened to the podcast with Joe, and it was like, I love this guy.
Yeah. It's proper cutting. It's a proper deep cut when you look at it, because, you know, it's the ones that built it that are speaking on why it was built.
Yeah.
And the purpose was never to bring people together. It was never to create some sort of a connection and dialogue and make us all better people. It was to track us. It was to siphon data, to run a social experiment that, as you said, has now been going on for 10 plus years, to map our behavior so that they can ultimately control us and vie for our attention. And the product
and
now,
replace us.
We're the
and
commodity.
Replace us and then
We're the commodity. And as long as you keep pumping out sheep that are addicted to these devices, then you've just got this conveyor belt of consumers. We're the commodity.
Part of me, Daryl, part of me. So let's bring this back to the election as I wind down the final percentages of my MacBook here.
Yeah, of course.
I want to cover 3 parts of the election.
Let's go.
That I have in my notes. The first one is, if Trump loses, what are his biggest regrets? To me, not draining the swamp, being beaten by the swamp is one of them. Hey, supporter of the president, swamp beat him. If he loses, the swamp beat him.
Yeah.
Appointing Jeff Sessions as your AG and letting that guy make the Russia hoax happen for 4 years. They impeached him on a phone call. I heard the phone call. I read the transcript. That is not impeachable. The whole deal where you weren't allowed to say the whistleblower's name, what they did to Kavanaugh, I mean, they ate him up. They ate him up. And him not getting scalps, you know what I mean? Like claiming his scalps, I think emboldened the left enough where they're like, well, he ain't going to do nothing. We're going to steal this election.
Yep. I mean,
that's a feeling I have.
Yeah, I feel that one of his biggest regrets will, and maybe not because he definitely is a narcissistic personality. I feel, you know, I feel that
he won't have any regrets.
This is the whole thing. It's like, well, he'll just blame somebody else because that's what a narcissist does, right?
That's what he does.
I think deep down, when he sits by himself, there's something of a feeling that will creep through, and I think he might regret not going a little bit more tactical and being so obtuse in his delivery of everything. I don't know if that served him well in every instance. And I think because he's not a dumb guy. You don't get to be the president by being an idiot.
No, he's not. He's not
don't.
Dumb.
And
it's too easy for people to say that the president's dumb.
That's such a write-off. It's such a stupid thing to say. It's like you could barely get elected mayor of your own town, let alone getting elected president of the most powerful nation in the history of the world. Like you can't put it down to he's an idiot. You can put it down to his behavior is stupid. Is stupid sometimes, and he's got idiotic ideas, and that narcissism of his allows his better judgment to be pushed to the back while he just goes, full tilt forward on, letting his mouth say the words before his brain processes them right. And that's where you get stupid things like, inject yourself with disinfectant and, shine light into your system and, stupid things like this. Or, you call Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas, like, stupid things.
I love how he does that though.
But
you know what?
You could be more tactful.
After she did the test and we found out that she was like it was the ridiculous percentage that she was like native. Yeah. It was the best name of all of the names he gave.
But if he plays it more tactically, does he get this tiny percentage more that people go to the ballot booths and vote for him? And then this isn't a question.
That's an interesting thought process. Like what you're saying is if we get like Trump behave, do we get like more?
I'm not even saying behave, dude. I'm not even saying behaved. I'm saying behaved a little bit more.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. My answer to that is no, because you don't have the love that he's got. He's got so much love because he's not them.
I get that. But
and that's his army. And his army was what infected other people.
But when he turns around in March and just on a whim says, this thing will be gone by April because it's going to get hotter. And when he says, 200,000 people are dead, well, it is what it is. these are statements he doesn't need to make in the way that he's making them. And if he's a little bit more concise and thoughtful in his delivery of things, then maybe he's not looked at in the light that he's looked at by, again, like I said, this is not half of America. This is 10% more, and he dusts Joe Biden. He completely dusts him.
Okay, so let's go on to the fact that we mentioned, hey, we got to let the legal process out.
Sure.
Where do you stand with any kind of impropriety in the election? Do you believe it's gone on or not?
I think there is a high percentage likelihood that in places like Pennsylvania, in places like Philadelphia that have a pretty stymie history of voter fraud and, kind of, dodgy dealings, I wouldn't put it outside the realm of possibility that something untoward has happened. If we look back at all the other things that we've said about the Democrats and what they're looking for, truly looking for, it wouldn't surprise me to find out that they've manipulated some votes. It just wouldn't.
What I say to that, I got a couple of things to say to that. I absolutely think some stuff's gone on.
Okay.
So 3 things. Number 1, again, the president, just don't use the word fraud. Just use impropriety.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about how we threw together a mail-in ballot situation in a few months' time. It's not been vetted. It's not been worked through. These kind of systems take years to refine. And of course, there's going to be human error, accidents, and mistakes. We have to work through those. I think, again, it's a messaging problem right now that he's having.
This goes to my point that I just made.
Yeah. And, well, I agree with you. Okay. But I will say this, we've all been in classrooms where there's somebody cheating on a test.
Yeah.
So never for a minute think that the other side wants to win so bad that they're not going to bend the rules. Of course, they're going to bend the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And then also too, when you throw together a huge system that's going to actually scale up and process ballots, there's going to be mistakes. Now,
Definitely.
I'm not going to point the finger that one side cheated. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm just not. But I'm going to say, we're going to look at everything. And when it's all vetted, and my side, I'm speaking as the president, owns all the courts, we own all the legislatures. What then? What then if we find it? What happens? What happens, Daryl? No one's thinking about this.
This is it.
What happens when he finds it? If he finds it, what's going to go down, bro? Okay? That's the thing right now. It's we just assuming that there's been no cheating. And yet 70 million people are saying, yeah, there's tons of cheating. And this was before this year. I've got friends still to this day that think that Hillary Clinton's 3 million people margin in the popular vote was all BS because all that cheating in California and stuff. I mean, there's people that really believe that. So if they find any cheating and he comes out and shows the evidence and his followers believe it, what then?
Well, this is it, right? And we have to remember that whilst all this legal process and evidence gathering or whatever that process is going to look like, we are currently on the 9th of November. If this all plays out and Biden, ends up taking the White House and so on and so forth, and we've got 3 months or 2.5 months of Trump still as president. A lot of stuff can happen in 10 weeks.
Let's circle back to the reason why China hasn't said anything.
Oh God! Because if
could
they
it be that? Could it? Well, wait. Could it be that China? Could it be that China knows that there's cheating, and that Trump's going to find it?
Maybe.
And when it happens, there's your civil war.
And
there's your complete
love
chaos.
That.
Aren't they just sitting back going, yeah, I can't wait for Trump to find the cheating and for the Trump followers to lose their shit and for the mainstream media to say it's bullshit. And next thing you know, it's war.
This is
because if the president finds cheating, if the president finds cheating, Daryl, I mean, any kind of like little bit, like just a little bit, let's say a little bit, not
Yeah.
enough to win. What? Like, does he just go, oh yeah, I lost. I found a little bit of cheating, but I didn't find enough, a big one. What does he do? What do
Nate,
supporters do?
The Gore-Bush presidency was done on 500 votes
Yeah.
on a recount in Florida.
Yeah.
We're talking about 500,000 vote lead in Pennsylvania that withered to a deficit of 40,000 within 3 days in Pennsylvania. That's the numbers. If they show 5,000 or some arbitrary number like that were miscast or, you know, illegitimately cast, they were past the due date or anything, where does that leave them?
If the president finds any kind of cheating at all, COVID-19 is the least of America's concerns.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And
hey, I know the folks on the right. You know, one of the things I get fucking pissed off with me and guys like Mike Cernovich, like I love Mike Cernovich a lot because he's like, I love Cerno. You see me on Twitter drafting off. I'm like, hey, Cerno, pay attention to me. Like, I love Cerno. Like, I'm trying to get him to like buy into Day, get into some Day 2024. But what I love about Cerno is how pissed he is. Okay, that the left is so much more about it than the right. The left is so much more about it. And I call my friends out all the time, like, hey man, you're in the States. Are you on the street? No. Stop telling me about QAnon. Stop telling me about trust the process. Stop it. Because the left is out on the street right now and you're at your home. Because the right, I think, still have that like decency gene. You know what I mean? Like the Mitt Romney decency gene. You know, like they want to be that guy.
There's a gentlemanness to them or something.
Yes. I think that there is. There, you know, like, you know, they don't want to go that far because I think they also know too that when they do, it's not pretty. And I think that any kind of cheating at all, if it gets uncovered, it's the straw that breaks the camel's back for those people.
That's the thing. I see the BLM folks, I see the Antifa folks out there, and let's be honest, they're a bunch of wet blankets. And in the face of any sort of real strength, they crumble. You see what happens when the police actually decide to not get spit in their face and they actually decide to arrest one of these punks. They just fold. They're complete wet blankets, and they're nothing. They're nothing. Yeah. And what worries me and what concerns me is that if there is some evidence, as you said, that shows this impropriety, the right, when they come out, that's a different sort of protest, in my opinion. Yeah,
and that's why Russia and that's why China's not saying anything.
I think it's a powder keg waiting to explode, mate.
And I've seen enough weirdness, like there's lots of weirdness. There's lots of weirdness going on. There is, Daryl.
Of course there is.
And I want to say, you know, for the good of my friends on the left, I don't want to taint your victory, but like, hey, don't you want to win the right way?
Don't you want the victory not to be tainted?
Yeah. Don't you want to win so that, like, hey, for 4 years we don't sit around and go Russia, you know, like you did to Donald Trump?
Exactly.
Because I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to be that guy. If you win, you win, and I'm going to challenge you guys on like the outcomes of your policies.
But I also think that there is.
But under this situation right now, if you ram this down my throat for 4 years, you're getting it.
100%.
And that doesn't get us anywhere.
And I also think that there's an element of them thinking they're getting something that they're not actually getting. I think they think,
a mandate.
I think they
they're
believe
not getting that mandate.
But I also think they're getting a good version of something. Like the Democrats are a good version of politics. Like they're what do you want to say? Like they don't have shit on them. Their shit doesn't smell. You know what I mean? Like there's a different version of what's coming in. It's like, oh, I see these celebrities and I see these liberals and people on the left just saying like, oh, we can finally, you know, breathe a sigh of relief. Our kids can, like, did you see what's his name? On CNN?
Van Jones.
It starts crying, saying now we can be proud to live in a country where our kids can go to school and our kids can walk down the street. It's like, are you really selling that line of bullshit? And are people actually buying that line of bullshit?
Like Daryl, I think that, you know, I'm at 3% right now. So
Mate, we can always go. We've done 2 hours plus.
yeah, like, we've talked for a while. I'm more prepared this one. The last time it was like 3 o'clock in the morning and I was like losing it.
No, it's good, man. And this isn't gonna be the last one.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so I think that there's some stuff that needs to play out. I think that we've done a little bit of what is it called? Foreshadowing for the next chat.
A little seasoning.
Yeah, a little get it ready. I just think that I just hope everybody keeps a cool head. You know, my message to my friends out there is let the legal process play out and stay reasonable. Just stay reasonable.
And my message is be careful what you wish for, because sometimes you might not like what you actually end up with.
Yeah, and I'll say I'll say to my friends who are strong supporters of the president, like, if the president loses, just plan better in 4 years and try to overcome. You know, turn our sights towards Canada. You know. Yeah. But Daryl, I love talking to you, man. It's been great.
Hey, before we go, mate. Before we go, do you want to tell anybody about the corner yet?
Oh shit. Yeah. So with 2% left on my MacBook, I've launched a new platform called The Corner. Now, The Corner is basically me and my people, and I'm trying to create my community to sort of build what will be a public office career in the future. So, you know, be perfectly transparent. I'm trying to build my support base, my base, you know, but I'm doing it in a way where I'm trying to give myself up, my time, my ideas, my experience, and my abilities to my friends, in a way where they really appreciate. You know, it's a free community. I'm going to have podcasts by doing Zooms like this where we record it. I'll upload it to my YouTube at Brooke Daye at YouTube. You can just search my name. So there'll be a video cast, and then of course there'll be podcasts on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But it's The Corner. Nice. And it's by invite only. I've appointed admins that are like, you know, I've got an admin that is very left leaning, big Bernie bro. I got admin that is very MAGA, and then I got a really strong woman who is a hardcore gal who I really got a lot of respect for. I made them my admins. Beautiful. And it's like, hey, you know, like it's an invite only, and I'm trying to build a group where we talk about good stuff. You know, first post was today, and you're part of that. So we'll be doing a pod together. Definitely. We'll be talking about like maybe some stuff that's not necessary. I don't want it to be all politics. I think a lot of people tune in with me because of politics, but yeah, it's The Corner. Thanks, Daryl.
Love it, brother. I love it. Take care of yourself. We'll speak again soon. Yeah.
Stay safe in the lockdowns. Okay.
You too, brother.